Go.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are here today with another Indie Underground. I brought my boy Hollywood Jacoby with me. Obviously, it's better than the best Turan Bishop, and we brought you yet again another amazing indie guest, Jacoby.
Yes, guys, we got a very special treat for you. We have one of the highlighted workhorses of the Canadian indie scene, Mr. Chris Parrish. How are you? Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. And again, we're talking like minutes after my favorite quarterback retired. So it's a sad day, but at the same time, it's pie day. So, who doesn't like pie, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Exactly. You got to take the good, right? You always got to take the good. So, I'm very happy. I'm very grateful to be on. So thank you guys for having me.
So, Jake, can you do us a favor and go ahead and put on the agenda to send Mr. Parrish some tissues, because apparently he needs them.
No. Man tears are a myth. They don't really happen, right? No.
Hey, it's okay. We'll have to find the clip of when the Saints won the Super Bowl and see if those words still ring true.
No, I was drunk then, so there was a completely different story. I literally had that's a funny story because I became an uncle the very next day, so there I may have shed the mythological tears. But
gotcha.
What's really cool was I had a men's league hockey game that day, and I came home and I just kicked my roommates off the TV, and I'm like, nope, my house, I'm watching the game. And as soon as that happened, the halftime was just about to over, and then that onside kick that we're just like, oh my god, and then I was just like, cool. I was like, I'm so happy. That was like a great weekend. But I was loaded. I got loaded that day. There wasn't anything. Work should not have let me work on Monday.
Oh shit. I think we've all been there at one point, though.
Yeah,
we did a few podcasts drunk,
whoa. We had a few shots of Hennessy on one podcast.
Right. When Street Profits won the tag team championships, we had Hennessy.
Yeah.
Just because.
Because if you thought you were slurring beforehand, alcohol was going to help that cause, right?
Exactly. Oh goodness.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's drinking logic 101.
Yeah, well, Chris, again, we thank you for joining us, man. I got some questions just to kick it off for that here. So you've been going at it for over a decade now. It's going to be 17 years in the summertime?
So I started training into the summer of 2004.
Okay.
My first wrestling match was actually okay. So what we did, we had kind of a camp show where it was just family and friends. So we did one of those in October 2004. And then by November, that's when the first show with people that I didn't know. So I like to think that was my debut, even though my first match was technically October of 2004.
Okay.
But it was what it was. It was my first match. So the only cool thing was that Phil LaFawn was in that match. I was terrible, but Phil LaFawn was there, so that was cool.
Yeah, there you go.
I saw him on TV when I was a kid, so I was happy.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. One of the things that I've noticed just from watching film of you is that you are like a Swiss Army knife. We've had guys on the show here where actually we've only primarily interviewed heels thus far, with MARC and Casey Catal and stuff. But with you, I've seen you work matches both ways. And while for example, one of my favorite matches that I've seen from you was actually, I believe, last October against Lumberjack Larry Woods, and you wrestled him as a heel for MPW, right?
We were actually face.
Really?
But so the funny backstory with that, I got my start in MPW and I left probably a year and a half before that match took place. I went to another company, and then I came back, and then we had a face-to-face match. I actually thought I should have came back as a heel just because the crowd seemed to change.
See, that's where it was. So kind of where the confusion was for me, and I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
just because the crowd was pretty behind Larry, so I was assuming he must be working as a heel.
So he was a former champion, and then they had a Money in the Bank type thing where he got his tag team partner. Actually, they both kind of co-won it. Which, if it's confusing to you, don't worry, I'm with you guys, because I was in the crowd as a fan for that one. But So he had won the title off the reigning heel champion, and then his partner came in, turned on him, became the new champion. So like he was kind of set up as their number one baby face, and then so like he has this and you saw the match, like he has this natural positive charisma about him that just shines out. So like I can see why people wanted to like kind of boo me, because I mean it can be only one or the other, right? We can't tell a baby story. God forbid if people had that patience nowadays.
Well, I mean, we have that discussion all the time, actually, on our show, was because the thing, I guess when All Elite Wrestling first debuted, you know, their big thing was like, well, there are no heels and faces. Anybody can kind of do whatever as long as their work style fits that. And so we always.
Can I swear on here?
What's up?
Can you swear?
Can I?
Yes.
Oh, of course. Yeah. We are.
That line is bullshit.
I totally agree, though. That was what I always argued, was like, they can say that all they want. Another guy on our show, Blake, that's his biggest thing, is like, oh, well, you know, one night, you know, the Bucks can come out and super kick the crap out of somebody, and then the next thing they'll turn around and hug children in the crowd. I'm like, that's fine, but that also doesn't help anything, because kayfabe needs to be a thing.
If I was in a group with two other guys, and I told the world that I had cancer, and then I had to look over and see one of those guys beat up my other buddy, I'm not going to be mad or think that guy is the villain.
Right.
And
exactly.
people want to tell me a heel doesn't exist. Okay. Well, then, or we can go back to Sergeant Slaughter when he turned on the United States during a war going on. Like that's like, come on.
That's my biggest thing, dude, is like, you got to be kidding me.
That's the best part of pro wrestling, is that good versus bad storyline. Like I mean, come on. Like that's the best part of wrestling, in my opinion. It's the story.
So Chris, transitioning into another question for you. How do you feel about kayfabe as it stands right now in 2021? Like, is kayfabe dead? Should it still be in existence if you feel it's dead, or what's the status of it for you?
Well, I'll respond with this question: does Santa Claus exist?
Depends on the person.
On your age. Yeah,
exactly. That's all it is. Like, to me, it's just something of what you want to choose to believe. It's I thought the internet took a good job of kind of wrecking what we consider kayfabe, or what Sting likes to refer to it as kayfab in PNA, which I think is the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
But like, it's hard though too, because so many more people have insider information on the performer, and then you have the performer going to like an after party with fans, and then it's a different story. While then you watched how cool it was when Taker was Taker all the time, and that's why his character was what it was, because he never broke the quote unquote mold of what his gimmick was. So I don't know, like it can be done still today. Like that's the thing. It can be done still, but like, man, like you just have to be creative. Like, look at when the Hardys came back to WrestleMania and tell me like that wasn't a shock. Like that's still kayfabe. Like keeping things under wrap is still that. Like Christian Cage going on Revolution. I mean, people thought they knew, but they weren't sure. Like AJ Styles at the Rumble. Like all these things are considered part of like a kayfabe, or you know, like does Adam Cole and Pat McAfee really hate each other? Like is that a thing? Like we don't know.
Exactly.
But I mean, who cares? Let's enjoy it. Like, that's the problem right now with wrestling. Is I not that it's a bad thing to ask so many questions, but we need to know everything when we can just sit back and enjoy what we see. Like I think that's the big issue with wrestling right now. Is like we just need to sit back and enjoy it and just let it unfold without hammering down every little thing they do, just because we are right by our keyboard.
And it's okay. I wholeheartedly agree with you. It's okay to theory craft, right? It's okay to wonder. That's the fun part of wrestling. That's the part of the journey, right? But I think that as fans, people take it a little bit too seriously, right? And they don't enjoy. They want to get to the end without enjoying the journey in between, right? So
well, and that's just it. Like, I don't know, like if you go from being a kid to an adult, you don't really get to enjoy your teenage years, right? So like that's kind of like what it is. Like everything gets more emotionally invested when you start something and you find your way through the rough times and then come out and see it through. Like that's what wrestling is supposed to be. With that being said, do I think wrestling is perfect by any means, like creatively? No, No, it's not. We have a lot of crap on TV. Like we just saw like a really bad segment at Revolution Ended. Like that was just poorly executed.
We went off on that one.
We went off.
Well,
we went off on that.
I mean, like, like trust me, like you can pick your spots and criticize just about everything, but at the end of the day, like we live in a world where we need to know everything right then. If I wanted to find out, like back like 20 years ago, if I wanted to find out that Drew Brees retired, like I'm seeing it in the paper or I'm seeing it breaking news on TV, but it might not be instantly.
Right.
I saw it on my phone with an app, and then like a boatload of my friends are just like, poking me with it after. And I'm like,
of course.
Come on. But with that being said, it's too instant. Like I think that's what the problem with kayfabe is. It's everything is so instant that it doesn't have a chance to become kayfabe. Like it's already kind of dead before it even gets a chance to live.
So Chris, like with that being said, with Revolution, we all saw it, right? If you were in the back, right, and you had to produce through that segment, what would have been your take? How would you have handled that? Because obviously we knew, just looking at it as fans, something just didn't go right. Like, and I think they were scrambling to kind of fix it. What would you have done to fix it if you were producing?
The number one thing, if it doesn't go to what you think and you don't react to it, like then just don't do it. Like, do something else. Like it's, I don't know. Like it's one of those things where if you can't get it right, then just wait until you can. And maybe it's just one of those scenarios where everything was going right and it's just like the worst timing where boom, that's what you got at the one time where it mattered. Sure, like that stuff happens and like it's fine, but like I don't know, like it's stuff that it's just fuel to the fire that's social media, right? Like it's just giving every quote unquote smart mark reasons to say, AEW doesn't know what they're doing. I go back to NXT, or this is why I love WWE. And then you have like this whole war of people who just love wrestling, but instead of talking wrestling, they spend more time bantering each other about what's better. When no, man, like it doesn't matter. Wrestling is wrestling. It's like if you like comedy movies and I like action movies, like we both like movies. Like if you like country music and I like hip hop, and yes, I'm making sure I don't single you out as a hip hop guy and stuff like that. But like, who knows? Like nobody knows what people are until you get to know them, right? So like until you watch something, you don't know if it's good or not until you actually see it through.
Right. So you've invested a lot of time into what you do in your craft, right? 2004 was a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
What moment, like in your life, that you knew that the journey of being a professional wrestler is what you wanted to do?
So I knew kind of when I was in high school that I either wanted, like, I mean, my when I was a kid, like I wanted to either be the captain of the Edmonton Oilers or the Intercontinental Champion. So that was literally like,
wait, well, hold on. What champion did you want to be?
Intercontinental.
You hear that, Jacoby? You hear that? Intercontinental. He has class.
White strap, right? Like that's what it was.
Well, yeah, which strap?
Dude, I'm a Saints fan. It's always black and gold all the way.
See, there you go, Turan.
Come on, Chris. The white strap is classic. What do you mean?
Yeah. Okay, but so was the gold strap that Goldust had. That was cool. Gold on gold is nice.
That was
the
pretty
gold on gold. It was
pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. The reason why I'm saying Intercontinental, and we can debate the title design all we want. And besides, when Cody had it and he had like the extra graphic in it, that was a nicer version of it.
I agree.
But that's a plate, not a strap.
Right. But still.
I mean, gold just shines so much good on black. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That's why you brothers look good in chains, and we kind of look like we're faking it.
Oh God. This guy here is on it. Like I love it. He is coming back, Jake. He is coming back.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
I mean, but with that being said, it's like I wanted Intercontinental because all my favorite wrestlers, like my favorite wrestler growing up was Shawn Michaels, and then I later kind of loved Macho Man.
You're speaking Turan's language there with little Shawn Michaels love.
Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler in the world.
Yeah, I like. Okay, so I was more of an Owen guy than a Brett guy, by the way. So like living in Alberta, Canada.
Where's John when I need
Can we be best friends? Like, can we be best?
Think about that. Like, I have an older brother, so that Owen Hart storyline related so much to me.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Like, And then WrestleMania comes, like WrestleMania 10 comes, and tell me that's not one of the greatest storylines that never really got fully told. Mm-hmm. Bret Hart loses clean to his little brother and then wins the title, and then Owen Hart is standing in that aisle saying, "It's always about you, it's never about me."
Right.
Like, exactly. Come on. And like that is beautiful storytelling in one night. In one night. Even people nowadays can get behind storytelling in one night, right? Or I hope so. But I mean, like, I was a
cage match, one of my favorite of all time, by the way. This the SummerSlam '92, I believe, Owen versus Bret in the steel cage. That's probably that one, and then I think
no, it was 94, 92 was Wembley Stadium with the Bulldog.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but no, like so, like I was a Michaels guy, and then I became a Jericho guy, and then I became kind of like a Punk guy. But in between, like I was like, okay, I had a big fascination, like when we got WCW on the air. Okay. Like that was when Shawn Michaels got hurt his back, and we didn't have internet then, so I had no idea why he left. Like, so I then transcended when I saw WCW. I'm like, oh, I just saw the Crow movie, thought that was cool, and they have a guy that looks just like him. And I am so fortunate that Sting just became super awesome. So, and then Jericho was there, and that's when he was doing the stuff like the segments with Goldberg, the stuff with Dean Malenko, the stuff with Rey Mysterio, like that cruiserweight run, television title run. Like, and I'm just like, man, this guy is so entertaining. He's just so different. And he was the only heel that never joined the NWO, which I thought was really cool. Like, he just did his own thing. And then when he came to WWF, which I was a WWF guy growing up. So that was so cool. I remembered still like the night he debuted and just like losing it. Like, so happy.
One of the best pops to this day was that one.
Yeah, top 3 debuts I think ever.
Right.
So listening to you describe like the people that you admire in the ring, right? It kind of describes like who you are right now as a performer. The workhorse. When people describe you to us, they said the workhorse. And a lot of the people that you describe are workhorses, right? Do you feel that you are a workhorse?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's really all I can do. Like, I don't ever feel like I'm gonna skaze through something just because of what I did, and I don't like doing that. Like, I think that's stupid. Like, there's so much talent in wrestling that I've been mad because certain guys were giving something, and I'm just like, man, this guy's better, or I'm doing better. Like, come on, give me a break. One of the reasons why I left the company that I currently for was I felt like I never was the promoter's guy. And then as soon as he said, "You're the guy," that's all I needed. I didn't need the actual title anymore. I just needed him to say it. Right. And so like it was insecurity 100%. I will admit that. But at the same time, it was one of those things like, okay. And then I went elsewhere and I kind of did stuff for me, which I'm not much like, I don't do enough stuff for me in wrestling. I kind of see things through, and I'm loyal to faults at times. So when you say workhorse, yeah, because I feel that's the only way I can get better. One of my biggest things is we all want to have the perfect match.
Right.
But if you're actually involved in wrestling, you understand that there's no such thing as a perfect match, yet that's our mindset. Because what I think is a great match now might have been different 5 years ago, might be different from 5 years from now. So therefore, my expectation of what I just did could be different, and therefore it's no longer perfect. Right. This makes sense. Yeah. Therefore, the only way to get to where I'm at is to go back and work on things. Mm-hmm. And if I'm always constantly improving, that means I'm constantly getting better at things. And that's kind of my mentality.
So your gimmick now, Chris, right? Like I saw just looking at your videos, a couple different gimmicks you had, but this one here, where you are right now in the stage of your career, I think is, from what I've saw, is some of your best work. Now, what do you feel gimmick-wise has been your best work through your career?
Well, as you see kind of up there, that's the Canadian National Wrestling Alliance provincial title. Mm-hmm. So kind of when we started kind of doing that, they actually gave me a character called the Hired Gun. And it was kind of like a one-man version of APA, but I wasn't like the big guy. I just went in and I did this, like, and I think that like I just did whatever was asked. Like, they paid me, I did what I asked. Like, I remember one show, and like, tell me if I'm a heel at that point. And like, I wasn't a baby face going in, but like when we were talking about baby faces and heels not existing, how can you cheer me at this point? I went in I cheated to beat the number one babyface, like the heart and soul of that company. I cheated to beat him.
Right.
I punched a woman in the face.
Shit. Oh shit.
Good TV.
And, oh, no, sorry. I cheated to win against the number one babyface in my division, and I ended up interfering, costing the heart and soul his championship match. So I punched a woman, cheated to win my match, and then screwed over the crowd's favorite. Are you going to cheer me?
No, not.
Absolutely not.
And the best part is, it's like, I laugh because I still think of, because we all laugh when I said I punched a woman, like, which is absolutely terrible,
Right,
by the way.
it's the heel thing, right?
We're wrestling fans.
I know. But like, the whole thing, it was a girl versus a girl match, so like standard. And then she was trying to be, you know that thing where Shawn Michaels super kicks Stan because he was trying to be controversial?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the story was like she was trying to make an impact, and then she had got a cheap victory, and like it was just like, oh, I held the ropes. And then she cut a promo saying like how she was, and then I went out and like, you think that's making an impact? And then as the baby face got up, I just boom, and I'm like, that's an impact. Get your
Hell
together, right? And then like that was the message, and then it was so funny because then a match later, I go out, she to win. We have intermission. I go out in the main event, screw the game, and I was like, yep, okay, I'm made now. Yep.
Yeah.
But that gimmick was a lot of fun because creatively, I got to do anything.
That was your
we did
first-
in kind of it was just one that I think gave me a lot of creativeness to
Gotcha.
kind of be my own. Also, this was like my first real time being my own. Like I've always had like a sidekick or a manager at this point when I was a heel, so this was just me on my own. So it was nice to kind of step out of the shadow of always having someone and doing things on my watch. But like I remember wrestling for a company, and I still wrestle for them. It's called Pure Power Wrestling out in Lethbridge, Alberta. My opinion, the best company in Alberta wrestling. We had a group called the One World Empire, and like we're OWE, and obviously that spells O. And the backstory was we had three guys who like I disrespected referees so much that I got regulated to being the junior official for the company. So like the guy that I was bullying in my match who was refereeing, he was like the head official. I became kind of his lackey, and like he was like my tutor in a way. And then we wrote that story to where I did like I got a second chance, and it was against a guy who was coming back, and if he won, he was the number one contender for the title. So I was like, oh, just the hardest task he could possibly give me. And then I lose, and then the thing was, if I lost that match, I became a referee forever. There was no more chance of being a wrestler. So then I took the microphone, I made fun of the town, I made fun of the company. I said, I'm going to get you guys back one way or another. I'm here to be a wrestler. I'm not here to be a stupid official who doesn't know how to do their job. I quit. And I quit on there. So I got heat there. We had another guy who became a number one contender to their cruiserweight title, didn't win the title, and they couldn't get a title shot because he kept losing that match. And then he always thought they kept holding him down. And then we had a guy who was champion, and we had kind of a female who, her name's Kat Von Hees, and she kind of like, she makes it very believable against men. So she beat him to become the cruiserweight champion. And then the whole thing is, it's like I lost to someone who shouldn't even be in the ring with men, and like what played in that card.
Right.
And then it was like all that. And then we had a reason to all hate the company. And then what the funny thing was, is that I created this group that just went in, and all we did was just cause chaos, kind of like what you see with the early Stones to Retribution, what the Nexus did. But it was kind of like an NWO with the three initials. So it was like a combination of all those. So that was fun. And then the very next thing we did, like we targeted all the major components, like all the top guys, the champions, the ones that had the power of the company. Their mission statement is, we want to come in, get our contracts back, take the titles, and then own the company. That was our mantra.
Right. That's awesome.
And then what was cool is we actually got the mayor of Lethbridge when we had a match, because if we won the match, we got ironclad contracts. We couldn't be touched.
Mm-hmm.
We could go and poo on fans, and they couldn't touch us. There was no repercussions.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by ironclad. It's when Big Show has signed that ironclad contract. That's where I stole the idea from.
Okay.
But then my idea was the commissioner was going to then, like, if we lost, he said he had a limo to drive us out of the city. Like, he was giving us a first class exit to get the fuck out. And then, so like my idea, like I wanted the commissioner to turn and join us. And I'm like, yeah, we got the mayor, in our back pocket. Like, how cool would that be? But obviously, election comes. Yeah, that's maybe not the best time. So that didn't happen. We ended up winning the match, getting it, and then everything happened. But I mean, that whole story lasted like a year, and it simply was based on 3 guys who were kind of like weavy around the card, not really a solid spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we just became the guys. And what's funny is, like, I became cruiserweight champion out of that. One of the other guys, him and I, like, we ended up becoming the heavyweight champion of the company. He actually beat me for it, and we're the only 2 guys in the company to hold both cruiserweight and heavyweight title in the company, which I think is really cool.
Awesome.
So it's almost like cornerstones in a way, like, of characters, and I think it's really cool because we created something that propelled everybody who touched it, and I think that's rare. But also the patience of a independent company to doing this for like a year,
Exactly.
like that's going a lot, and a lot of dedication. So that was a cool one. I would put those 2 as my top gimmicks I've done.
Right.
I have some other ideas,
Badass.
like I just turned heel in Pure Power Wrestling,
Mhm.
kind of like when we were doing shows.
Mhm.
And now it's kind of like I'm telling a guy like this, you are embarrassing of a champion. Like, when I won the title, I was the longest reigning. I made the title look more like a heavyweight title.
Mhm.
You are not even defending it. You're not even like, you're an embarrassing. Like, so you embarrass guys like me. You and this was in 2020. And I'm like, we talk about when we go online, everyone's so easily offended. But you being bad at this offends me. And that's kind of where I went. And I thought that was cool because
That is really cool.
I kind of turned the whole thing. I like to turn things and do it. Like, I created, like, me and Buddy, like, we created a team, and we were called the Struggle, and become Tag Struggle because of Twitter.
Mhm.
And we're like, let's just try to make like the struggle is real. Let's humanize that and see what we can do.
Right.
So, and then we became the struggle, and our finishing move was called help, because to end your battle with the struggle, we must help you.
Right. Damn right.
I like that.
And like, so
I like it a lot.
Really
Like,
cool.
so speaking of finishers, I always ask any indie talent that we get on your finisher, right? Because a lot of people don't know, like, what it's called and where it derived from. So your finisher, your personal, what is it, and what do you name it?
well, it's called the parachute, and my Twitch is actually creator of the parachute. So what it is, if you guys watched Riddick Moss lately, so he does it now. And I couldn't be more excited now, because I can now create myself in a video game, and hope to God that move is in the game. Because what it is, it's basically you take a guy's head, you bring it up like a neck breaker, he goes down, but you go to your stomach, not your back. And the whole reason was because I was playing with action figures, and to me, it just didn't look realistic doing a neck breaker with both guys landing in the same position. And all that was different was how you tucked your arm behind a guy's neck.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if I drove him down this way and I have more force that way? And then you kind of look like a V.
Right.
Yep.
And then I'm also in the perfect position to pin him right after. So it's like, boom, right there. And it's a move I can hit on anybody, regardless of the size.
Mhm.
And then over time, like, I've incorporated into where I do a standing suplex. And I do this more on smaller guys, standing suplex. And then I push them kind of like a jackhammer, but then I come down with it. So I think that's because, like, I already got him in that position.
Mhm.
And then it's funny that you guys are the hardest part of the ring, because when I was in a company called the Canadian Wrestling Coalition, in order to make myself more dangerous, I would then start doing it to guys on the apron, and we called it the POA, parachute on apron. Yes, it's as simple as that. Because then it became like, oh, anytime I hit it, it just became like I did it in a ladder match, so it was the POL.
Mhm.
And then one of the guys was like, do it on the stairs, and I was like, oh no,
POS.
oh no. He's like, what? Yeah. And then it's actually so ironic that that's now a show that Spencer Love and I host on Love Wrestling every Sunday of the pay-per-views.
Gotcha. Okay.
So with the pandemic in 2020 actually behind us, but it was a tough year for wrestling as a whole. A lot of things had to change and be adapted to. How are you dealing with that even right now in 2021?
I'm bored. Like, it sucks. Like, I'm a wrestler, and if you can't wrestle, like, it sucks. But what I'm able to do, because what I'm pretty bad at doing is I'm not good at creating merch, or I'm not good at creating gear, or I'm not really good on that stuff. Like, the gear you saw me wear, like, I had the Fleur de Lis on because I'm a Saints fan. There was no symbolic reference to me as a wrestler. I just had no idea what I wanted. And then the whole reason of me having the letters on my ass is just so people knew who I was. And then my mom even made that gear because we got her a sewing machine, and she's like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm like, ooh, make me gear because it's free and it's just up the street. This is fantastic. So, but then now, like, I got new gear coming. So, like, that's actually cool. So I've been at least taking time to do that. At the beginning of January, Love Wrestling started. So we've been able to kind of tackle that one. And then, again, like I've said, like, I'm 35. Like, I get to rest my body, so that's kind of a nice thing. But to answer your question, like, I just want to get going because right before this pandemic, like, I had broken my kneecap, and then I was on the way coming back, and then as soon as I came back, we get hit with a pandemic. Yeah. So, like, it's, I don't know, it's the ultimate. What do you want to? I don't know if I want to say it this way, but, like, it's the ultimate, like, cock tease in a way. Yeah. Because just when you think you're good to go, something roadblocks you, and it's just like, ooh. Like, so, like, yeah, you know, like, that's what COVID kind of was. It was a cock tease for sure. But I want to put it in a sexual reference, I guess. The only time I think anybody will put a pandemic in a sexual reference. But
so as we start winding, as we start winding down with our time with you, I'm going to ask you this because I think this is a pivotal question for you right now. You know, you mentioned a couple of times that you're 35, right? So what's next for you? Do you love the indies so much that is where you want to stay and you want to retire? Or do you have ambitions to go to a WWE or AEW or Impact? What's next?
If I can make more out of this, I'm always open to do it. Like, I think anybody who cares about something and doesn't want to take it to the next level in any way is lying. However, I'm in no place to say I'm going to be unhappy if it doesn't. So, like, it's okay if I don't. I'm happy just wrestling. If I'm just in the ring, it doesn't matter where. I just want to wrestle. I want to wrestle against people that can make me a better wrestler. That's true, but I just want to wrestle. And, like, in the last couple of years, it's like I wanted to get back into a ring. And then when I did, a pandemic came and it said no. And then you got kind of the odd showing because we were struggling with what protocols are going to be in place. So obviously, as wrestlers, we're going to be ultimate opportunists in that way of trying to, like, push the envelope as much as we can. But, like, the one thing I found out at 35, like, man, like, you can't take your status for granted at all because it doesn't matter what you do or what you've done. If you take any time off or you choose to take, you know, say like a week off social media, people forget about you. You got to constantly go. And that's kind of something I feel. I do feel like I'm a forgotten talent in my scene. So I want to come back. I want to re-evolve kind of what I can do and showcase people that, hey, look, you're not who you thought I was. I'm better than that. And just when you thought you forgot about me, I show you why you shouldn't have. And that's kind of where I am. And it's like, I'm always in a mindset of try to prove people wrong. I've never been a guy that's like, I've never played on a sports team where I was a walk-on. I had to fight and claw my way onto that every time. Mm-hmm. Same thing with wrestling companies. Like, I have never been told, here you go, here's something. I had to work for it. And that's all I know. So if I want to reestablish who I am, there's work to be done, and that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm focused on. It's going to be fun because I have so many ideas that I just need a platform that allow it. So I mean, it's really cool to do that because I can't draw, I can't sing, I can't dance, but I can think wrestling. So that's something I can do. And like, I don't know. And one day, like maybe like you said, like, am I looking at the end of the road? No, but I'm very conscious that, you know, it's coming. And today is kind of a very funny day for that, knowing, you know, what we talked about at the beginning. But man, like there is so many good adventures in wrestling. We're seeing Paul White go to announce. Like, man, like I've been thinking about going back to school for broadcasting to do just that. Like that'd be really cool. I've done some of that stuff. I've hosted a podcast in the past. Those are kind of ventures that I like doing. Like stuff with Love Wrestling is also a great second place to kind of go and talk wrestling and do this. Doing these podcasts are so much fun. The more I get to do those, the more I am. I love talking wrestling. I love shooting the shit with people, but I just love being involved in a way. And hopefully it's performing. But if it's not, that's fine. I will find something else because I will always be a part of wrestling in some way, shape, or form.
That's awesome, man. And the passion is definitely there. And I will say, just from the time of us spending together, nothing's going to get in your way. And that number, just like you said in the beginning, off air, you know, I don't look 40 years old, right? I got into this podcast a couple of years ago, and this is probably the most rejuvenating, exciting thing that I get to do, connecting with people like you, and being able to
exactly
send a message across the world that, hey, there are people out here, and wrestlers are people, and they do have stories, and they are just deeper than what you see sometimes. And I am ecstatic. Jake is ecstatic. The hardest part of the ring is ecstatic to watch you come back out and re-debut and kick the door down even harder than you did many years ago.
Yeah, and I think like the funny thing is too now, like the one thing I've realized is that people are just as insecure as you can be as a performer,
right?
Whether it's with other parts of their life. So being able to kind of take that time in a wrestling sense, like what I'll share you guys one of the coolest things that ever happened to me as a wrestler. And I was as Pure Power Wrestling heavyweight champion. I finished my match. I go out and there's this little girl, and what I knew was that she was born with like a condition that was cancerous, and she had just beat it, and she had came back. And then she looked up to me and said, "You're my favorite wrestler." And I'm just like, oh man, like that's pretty cool. So I said, well, you're my favorite champion. And I put the title on her and I held her up, and her dad with a tear just came in and took a photo. So and cool. Like, that was something that I remember as a kid, whether I wanted like Bret Hart sunglasses, I wanted to be high-fived, I wanted to slap Sunny in the back and just touch her because I was a kid with hormones. But like, and Sable didn't do live events because she was better than everyone.
God.
But I mean, it was one of those things where like the look on people's eyes, like especially the kids, when I was a champion and they wanted a photo, and I would say, okay, but like you got to do a favor for me. And like, what's that? I'm like, well, I can't do these photos and not do my super cool pose. And they're like, well, I want you to do the super cool pose. I was like, okay, well, then you got to hold this. So in every picture, I let a child hold the title, and like just, man, talk about getting over. Oh, I will say that, like that worked to like that wasn't like intentionally, but like I just remember as a kid. And I think that's something that I think everyone needs to remember. It's just like, what were you as a fan when you were a kid? And like, that's exactly how, like here's another one. My first match, some kid asked me for my autograph. And I said, why? Because I was an 18-year-old kid, just had his first match. I had no idea. And that's kind of like a learning lesson of like, man, this kid looks at me as larger than life. And I didn't look at myself like that just because I just had my first match. I'm trying to remember what I did wrong because I did everything wrong. But man, and that's just it. Like it's so cool to see that nowadays and being on the other side, but you have a chance to kind of interact with that a little bit more. And that's something I always try to do. I try to interact with the crowd as much as I can, whether I'm a good guy or a bad guy. It doesn't matter, because if the crowd's not involved in it, then what you're doing doesn't matter.
So we like to do something cool with each person that we have come on the show. So we had Mark on the show the other week. So we did something special with him. We talked about nerd stuff. So for you, knowing that you're an avid wrestling fan, I have something a little different. So I'm going to do a rapid fire 10 question with you. And I don't want
sweet.
I don't want you to think about anything. I just want you to answer the question that I asked.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready?
Let's do it. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm excited.
Okay. All right. Favorite current male wrestler?
Adam Cole.
Favorite gimmick?
Kane.
Who's the most overrated?
Oh, Kenny Omega.
Best mic skills?
Paul Heyman.
Best female wrestler today?
Bailey.
Best ring gear?
New Day.
Who should turn face today?
Seth Rollins.
Your favorite podcast or YouTube channel?
Hardest part of the ring.
Hey.
Your favorite your favorite finisher?
Parachute.
Hell yeah.
And finally, your favorite pay-per-view ever?
Royal Rumble. R.I.P. Pat Patterson. Legend. Love that guy. Super.
Perfect.
Definitely.
Ding, ding, ding. We got it.
Okay, so you want to hear a story too? When you told me the favorite wrestler, I'm starting to do Twitch. I'm not good on it, but I've noticed a lot of wrestlers do Q&As. And I'm like, if I want to get easy advice, I go on there and I ask them questions because that's the most interactive way you can connect.
Yep.
Right.
I said on Aiden English's Becky Lynch made it cool for a straight male wrestler to admit that a female was their favorite wrestler because she had a swagger about it. And when I said swagger, I didn't want to post this in the chat, but I'm like, she looked like she crossed off the 3 that I thought was like cool. And my wife agrees. So that I know this isn't sexist, but as a guy, you would want to have a beer with her, bang her, but you love watching her wrestle. And I'm like, she was like that. And then I was following pages and I was like, you know what? Paige could have been that person had she not get hurt. And I was like, those are really cool. And Alondra Blaze, oh God, she was one too.
Yeah, Alondra Blaze is probably one of my favorite female wrestlers, hands down, bottom line.
Yeah.
We're at the end here. We want to give you an opportunity to.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But
we're
gonna do this again. This was fun. I like you guys.
Let's do
we
it.
want to give you an opportunity though to tell people where to find you, and where we can interact with you. So go ahead and let the fans know where we can connect.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Chris Parrish. You can find me on Instagram at chris.parrish. You can find me on Twitch at Creator of the Parachute. You can check out lovewrestling.ca and find out everything that is Love Wrestling, where I host with Spencer Love and others every Sunday called the Sunday Brunch, where a lot of us either drink and eat. Well, I'm really the only one who actually orders and eats food. But also every pay-per-view, WWE pay-per-view, we have the POS show. Yes, it's predictions or spoilers. It could also be piece of shit depending on what you think of it. It could be pinfall or submission because we predict the show and that's how you win a match. Or it could be you either agree with Parrish or Spencer. Who knows what POS means? So yeah, like that's where you can find me. I do have a WordPress site. However, I don't remember the login, but it's on my social media because I haven't picked an actual thing. I'm frugal, so I don't want to pay it just yet.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of numbers and letters that sorry.
We will make sure that the hardest part of the ring also helps promote you as well. So when your segment goes live, obviously there'll be some cross promotion there. And we can't wait to have you back on again. This was amazing. We thank you so much for your time. And we can't wait for that re-debut.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here. And I'm also going to be remiss if I don't say that is a super cool ass room you have with all the stuff behind you, because that is awesome. We got to point that out. But again, thank you guys for having me. And anytime you guys want me back, let's hook this up.
Sweet.
No problem,
Thanks, Chris, man. Thank you.